Ladies and gentlemen, today is December 17th. This is another edition of the MSP Initiative, MSP Talk. So, MSPinitiative.com. This is where you'll find all the stuff that we like to park online for your viewing, like this very session that we're recording. And we'll be on these sessions to have MSP Initiative, which links back to our podcatcher and our YouTube page and all that good stuff. So, these sessions are online. Like, share, subscribe, forward, download, have at it. It's all there for you. MSP Community Minds, we had, now 2 consecutive years of this, educational formatted event for the industry. Check out the last agenda online for this past year. Denver's online, so you can see we had some panels and some workshops. We're going to probably continue this into 2025. I think we're looking at Dallas area. So stay tuned for dates, but we love this format. Actual learning, not, I'm trying to sell you something with a subscription at the end of it. Although there's plenty of that if you were out there in the world, if you want to buy it, but a little bit different event. Then we had all of our community block parties, right? We had Dallas and Berlin and Miami and Orlando and Dublin and Sydney, right? So we have parked all of the albums for all of those events at facebook.com/MSP Initiative. You can see all of these albums with all of the good candid moments going back forever ago, but definitely this year. Check them out. It's all online for you. And you can spot yourself, tag yourself, feel free. Have some community offers. Feel free to check them out and see if they make sense for you. And then our very own Jen, who's behind the scenes, here at MSP Initiative, took all of the known events that we have documented and put them into the 2025 calendar, although they're still coming in, right? Fast and furious. And as they do, we will continue updating that calendar so that everybody knows what's happening out and about in the sandbox. So that is all the housekeeping. Again, mspinitiative.com. Once you Google initiative and it spell checks it for you, you should be able to get there pretty quickly. All right. So our special guest on the podcast today is from a company that you may have not heard of before, but we're going to learn about it today. We're also going to learn about our guest, David Sohn. Hopefully I said that right, David. I'm sure we're going to talk about all sorts of stuff, but for everyone that's, kind of come on to this for the first time, we like to kind of let you talk a little bit about your history, right? In the sandbox, and how did you get in? What was your journey like? What got you to today? And then, we'll go from there.
Oh, fantastic. All right. Well, George, thank you for having me on. I guess to start, Helpt is a 100% US-based help desk force multiplier service. We're an outsourced help desk. We focus on the customer experience. Everybody's in the US. We started in the MSP channel about 2.5 years ago, and we've really seen a lot of success in, trying to address and deliver service to all of the different levels of the frontline support needs of our clients.
Understand. What about you? What about your personal journey, David?
My personal journey, holy moly. All right. So I was born in 1980. No, I'm just joking. I'm not going to go that far back. My professional.
We both got born in the same decade. It's all good.
Oh, good. Professionally, I started my professional career, doing technical recruiting. So I was learning a lot about a lot of different things when it came to engineering. And then I realized that I'd be so much better if I focused on one thing. And so I got a job with my buddy Matt and his partner now at a company that sold transceivers, little fiber optic things that were going into data centers. And I learned a lot about that one thing. And so we grew that organization in the executive team to a very large size. It sold. And we said, one of the things that would have made this a lot easier is having somebody like Helpt. And so that's what brought us to Helpt.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Before we go down, your lane, because it's going to come up, so might as well get ahead of it with some kind of recent industry news.
Yeah.
Our good, I think, industry, guy, I'm sure there's a better term for it, but I'm just going to go with guy. Yeah. Jay McBain, who currently is at Canalys, which is like kind of one of those, industry consortium type places. He does kind of like, hey, here's where the industry at, here's what's going on, that kind of thing, right? And I noticed, I don't know if you saw it, David, that I think yesterday he came out with like, here's the current state of affairs on like the PSA RMM kind of arena.
Mhm.
You know, when it comes to like who the players are and you know, where everybody's at like in the last 12 months kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so why I bring this up? Well, you know, number one, you know, a lot of MSPs have to run their business on, you know, not just manpower as we're about to get into, but just on technology, right? So everybody kind of, you know, invests in tools and SaaS applications and you know, systems, ecosystems, right? People just keep on kind of reinventing the verbiage here. But anyway, so I think yesterday Jay posted kind of like this, and I'm going to see if I can actually grab the URL and share it on live here. Just give me a second.
For
But
sure.
Jay brought up like the RMM PSA in the managed services space and like the growth percentages over the last 12 months, it looks like Q3 2023 until Q3 2024. And so it looks like, you know, the players here, Kaseya, ConnectWise, Ninja One, Enable, Halo PSA, and then others are kind of jammed
Mm-hmm.
together at the end. Anybody that's, you know, not past a certain point. Um, looks like, you know, none of those names probably shocks you, David, right? I mean, we've heard about these names for a long time, especially if you've been in the MSP sandbox.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like Kaseya has taken the top spot and is on just some massive growth. And you know, he actually puts in there that Kaseya 365 is kind of their driver of it. That yeah, they've grown 55.1% combination of RMM PSA for Kaseya in the last 12 months, which is what I would argue is pretty mature category. And to have
Mm-hmm.
that level of growth is crazy. They leaped ConnectWise, right? Who in the same period only had 3.2% of growth. I mean, that's a staggering
Yeah. Vast difference
difference.
for sure.
Behind them, Ninja One is third
Mm-hmm.
in the market share. In the last 12 months, they've grown 54.1%, which is like, I know, third in the list, but
Yeah.
very good growth there. You have Enable behind them at 3.7, kind of similar to ConnectWise in the growth percentage there. And then the Halo comes in the fifth position in market share, and they only have 3.1% of market share, but their growth is 102% in the last 12 months. Shocker. And then everybody else is 26.3% of the market share and 19.8% growth. So there's a lot of other names in there, right? Like Super Ops and Synchro and a bunch of other people. Anyway, long story short, those are largely the big players, right? I would say. They did kind of explain who the others are. They have on there a Terra, Manage Engine, Synchro, Acello, Acronis,
Mm-hmm.
so on and so forth. Um, so when it comes to the MSP's business model, the one
Mm-hmm.
thing that we can all, and since I've walked into the sandbox back in 2000, 2001, we're
Oh
in
no.
2024. It's almost 25, coming up on 25 years, David.
That's
You
yeah.
know, time flies by when you're having fun, right? Manpower is definitely in the mix. Here's the problem: as you add clients as an MSP,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you can't, you know, where the math breaks down is if you're having to hire as equal, you know, in terms of your client growth and your manpower, you hit a problem point, right, where the math begins to break down. And
Sure.
we've heard many stories of people who have gone completely the other way. They've gone into like automation, you know, zone, and they've been, you know, they're kind of like almost developers that happen to do technical support, which is a little bit of a different, you know, wrinkle to things. And they've been able to figure out how to get all these tools to actually do stuff for them. But bottom line is, part of the reality to managed services is the customer experience. Part of the customer experience is human beings talking to human beings. And I'm going to throw one more topic out there since I've been going on a rant
That's
here, right? This topic of Adam Walter asked where these stats are from. Adam, just go on LinkedIn, type in Jay McBain, MCBAIN, and his most recent post titled Significant Changes Reported in the Managed Services Software Market, PSA/RMM Today. This was literally posted 24 hours ago, maybe less. So that's what I'm referencing. His infographic chart that he's putting out there is where these percentages came from. So go check it out. But anyway, long story short, I'm going to throw one more topic out on there because as we do these podcasts, AI, right? There's
Yeah.
a lot of people betting, hey, we're going to solve your manpower problem. Some
Yeah.
people tried to outsource it. Some people tried to, fraction it into a crowdsource model. Some people tried to, insource it. Some people tried to automate it. Now
Mhm.
we're going to AI it, and we're just going to eliminate the need altogether for additional human beings because this new way of technology is going to just drive. It's just like, yeah. Listen,
Yeah.
I'm going to let you speak to all of this, by the way, in a minute. My opinion on all of this is you could be putting the best ass technology you can find in the world out there. And there's a lot of good stuff. You could be building your own, unique stuff too. Awesome.
Mhm.
But man, chain is only as strong as the weakest link. And who is the weakest link in the chain? The the least technology able person in the end customer's
Yep.
base employee
Yep.
stack who
Mhm.
is calling in, and this is the person that has a hard time pressing a power button,
Mhm.
remembering their password that's on a sticky note underneath their keyboard,
Mhm.
or plugging in a vacuum for that matter, right? Like they are literally the people who frustrate the hell out of everyone on this side in MSP land. And quite frankly, if that person's experience isn't good, that person, my
Yeah.
experience, goes to their boss and complains, and then their boss says that they're getting complaints, and they're going to the MSP, and the
Yep.
MSP saying, "What are you talking about?" And then they got to go do homework, and then they're using somebody like Help. They're going to Help saying, "Hey, what happened on this call?" And then like bottom line is, it all comes back down to somebody who doesn't remember their password, and that is the chain that the where the chain breaks. So I
Yeah.
don't think, as it stands today, it is December 17th, 2024. Could you imagine that person, the sticky note password, can't plug the vacuum in person, calling in, talking to an automated agent that's AI based, and like try having a good experience? I can't. I'm having a hard time coming up with that being some magic bullet here. So I'm gonna I'll leave that one out there for your thoughts, but
Good.
I'm gonna tell you right now, and I'm gonna remind everyone. I've said this now a couple times, but I've just told this story yesterday, so it's top of mind. McDonald's, who
Yep.
has a very finite business model with very specific things that they deliver. Like Jen, who's on the back end of this webinar, goes to McDonald's and just orders Diet Coke. No, I joke not. No hamburgers, no wraps, no chicken, Diet
Just
Coke. So she
bam.
went to some board somewhere that she was talking to and out of her car. And it was an AI thing, which, by the way, McDonald's did a pilot program in not in 3 states, 90 locations earlier this year, where they took the human being order taker out of the drive through, and they put in AI bot into the board, and then they scrapped it.
Yeah.
And then they scrapped it. Well, I'm not resetting a password. I'm not doing
Yeah.
anything complex. One
Ordering.
Diet Coke, please. I don't know
Yeah.
how hard that is, but that's all I'm talking about, right? Number one, please, medium. Like it's very finite. That didn't work out. So the McDonald's, with all of the money available to them, sell. Yeah, customer experience isn't good here. I very 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 much worry that the technology is even far enough for this to be consistent and deliverable today, December 17th, 2024. All right, I'm gonna get off my rant. I'm
No,
sorry,
no.
I had to
This
get
is
it
great.
out, but it fits this topic very very clearly.
Hey,
Customer experience, David. So go ahead, tell me what you think about all of that.
so you nailed it. You did my job for me. I think one of the biggest things that we're running into is the speed of the technology. It's going too fast for people. We're not ready for the transition that is ordering that Diet Coke from the AI through McDonald's. What we need to do is focus on the technology that is AI, which I'm a huge proponent of. I think it's amazing. And we need to enable the people that are still the humans to have that human to human connection. And frankly, and I know you say December 17th, 2024, 20 years from now, when the generation of people that want to be able to pick up the phone and get a human live on the other end are potentially gone. Sorry, mom and dad. When that happens, then I think that we're going to be a little bit more open to that AI interaction, that first touch. Until then, Helpt can be the front line for all of our clients. We have some offerings where all we're doing is picking up the phone and understanding that the person wants a Diet Coke and then sending the form into our clients, PSAs, whatever it is, Synchro, whomever. The next level, we're doing, the dynamic or structured troubleshooting where we're, understanding the issue. We're trying a couple of things with them. Hey, did you press that power button? Did you do that thing? And then the third one is where we're fully embedded in the help desk. And so we at each level will have AI empowering our agents at some point in time in the near future. But it's always going to be that human first. I think it's important. Where as a society, human nature dictates that, we get the warm and fuzzies from another human. We don't get the warm and fuzzies from, AI at this point. Maybe it gets better, but that's not where we are.
David, I've talked to a lot of MSPs in the last, let's just call it September 1st till now. I've talked to hundreds of people at events for whatever it's worth. And I've asked the question, would you consider going down AI Alley as like the first front customer stop in the journey? Mm-hmm. And some people are like, listen, I may tier my service where if you want to still get to the human being, it's a premium. I assume that with the service that you're offering, where people are considering putting AI there, maybe they're putting your service there, right? They're like, hey, our people are too busy working on strategic things, projects, implementation, onboarding, migrations, whatever. They're behind here in the back room, really like, chugging away. Like we're trying not to disrupt them. So we're trying to do the day-to-day stuff and put it out front so that somebody can handle like, the majority of the basic stuff that comes through the door. It's like, hey, if you want to pay a premium so you can get to my tier 3 or in-house guy, then maybe you got to be on my, super duper enterprise plan versus my entry level, starter plan. I don't know. I'm curious how you've seen people talk about the packaging of this. At the end of the day, like I argue, when I go to the airport, and I'm going to bring up, my good pal, Alex Stanners, who's, Mr. Bouge. I'm sorry. It's true. Delta, galaxy level, right? Has to like have the special lane with the red carpet and, wants to skip the line and I don't know, get in the Porsche instead of walking down the aisle at the airport and they drive him to the gate, whatever. Like that is what people consider the VIP. That is what people consider the, the red carpet treatment. Like people are willing to work hard to get to that level for that experience. They don't talk to an agent, they talk to a person, right? They don't talk to a bot in the app. They're calling the 800 number for help, right? Like, his version of Delta is my version of Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A signature, right? Like I like being at the, I don't care about being upgraded to first class. I want my Chick-fil-A, my status, right? I frequent it often. Grilled chicken these days for whatever it's worth, but I digress. So, moving forward, right? Let's not even go 20 years. Okay. Let's go 3 to 5 years, David. Sure. Let's go today into 2029. That's 5 years, right? I argue from a packaging standpoint, does the MSP charge a premium to get human being VIP-ish service? I don't think that goes away, but you tell me how you see this being packaged.
Some of the things that we've had the conversations around has been us being that next tier. And I think you're right. AI is shiny. Everybody wants it right now. If it was the first level of service, if you called in and, you explained your issue or whatever it was, or you said, hey, I need to talk to an agent, and that rolled over to us as the humans, that's something that I see could be a near future thing. AI is too cool. Everybody wants to play with it. So let's play with it for a while. At some point in time, I don't know, George, any lawyers? Any lawyers in the family?
You.
Ask that person, maybe when you're sitting around the holiday table, hey, how would you feel about calling and getting an AI person? Or sorry, an AI person, an AI bot. They're going to say, no, my time's too valuable. I get, $800 an hour, some crazy number. I don't want to spend my time talking to that person. I want to go straight to the agent that's going to take care of me. And I think that that's never going to change. And so 3 to 5 years from now, I'm with you. Tear it out. Here's this, maybe lower cost AI solution. And then if it bumps over to a human, you got to pay a little bit more. Maybe it's time and materials at that point. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just the plan. And then, if you want to go straight to that human, it's a completely different package altogether. I think that that's what I'm hearing.
Interesting. I'll tell you this, right? Since your company is technically in kind of that evolution that I mentioned earlier in the call, right? we tried outsourcing. I think like the Dells of the world just absolutely destroyed that idea for a lot of people,
Mhm,
right? Like I
mhm,
remember calling in, right? MSP tech guy, knew that there was a, deficient part, called 1-800 Dell,
yeah,
got somebody who, was reading a script with a fake name. I was having a hard time understanding. And like now that call that should have been a 5-minute thing turned into a 25-minute thing. And like, I'm
mhm,
just like, why am I paying a premium for this warranty service that's supposed to make my life easier? Like, I feel like I'm wasting my time. Right.
yeah,
So like that being said, I think the out of country offshoring thing is not worked out well for a lot of people. Now, I'm not saying people haven't tried, right? I hear a lot of Philippines, I hear a lot of Costa Rica, I hear a lot of, different parts of the world that apparently English is better, right? South Africa, maybe,
yeah.
different parts of Latin America. But generally speaking, the history on it's not great. So, how did you make this work domestically then?
Yeah. Well, the profit margins are terrible. No, I'm just I'm just joking. One of the things that we really focus on is the pod idea. You could go out to a call center that's overseas, and I think you mentioned the fake names. There's 150 agents that are all John that day, and so you call in and you get a John. Um, for us, we're really focused on the pod, and we're focused on really being like a fractional support agent. When we get started with a client, we do an onboarding process that goes into the detail of where their office is, who else might be calling about them, the details that we would need so that we seem like we're just a cube or two over. And I think that in addition to this idea of us being in a pod where that pod of people know as much as they can about our client, we end up in a situation where we truly are. We're just fractional support agents. We're not outsourced. We're not offshore. We're fractional. I think that's
Interesting.
the answer.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
great. I mean, listen, you joked about the profitability. I mean, bottom line is like the reason people try and go to out of the country from a U.S. standpoint is simply just cost savings, right? But
Yeah.
uh, back to the customer experience, right? If it's not good, it also fails. So the fact that you were able to bring it back on this side and make it work, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let me go to the other side, and at least from my own personal experience, and not with Helpt, right? We're going back now to like 2010s, right?
Mhm.
Not
Mhm.
that long ago. Like, man, I went through and documented the hell out of everything they asked for. Like, I spent actual time, right? And I like did the screenshots and the video clips and the help documents, and I made sure everything that they possibly asked for, plus, 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 was there, right? Like, I tried to make it as straightforward as possible. Um, but the number of things that got escalated to us
Yeah.
from the front line help desk vendor was like north 50%. Like to
Yeah.
the point where it was like, does this make sense? Like cost wise, right? Like if all they're going to do is be an answering service and
Yeah.
just take a message and bump it up, like that doesn't help enough, right? For the cost that we're putting out. So, like, how do you get that to a point where the percentages are better?
So I think that the answer, I mean, aside from the documentation and aside from that conversation that we're having about AI empowering agents, presenting them that documentation in a faster way, I think the answer is that it's about light escalations. You know, 2.5 years ago, we didn't know enough about the MSP community to really build an offering. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that what that meant was that, we came into this whole experience with our enterprise mindset and saying, like, hey, we just need to do what good is. It doesn't matter what, format that looks, we just want to be as good as possible. And so we ended up in this place where we were focused on truly just being a part of the team. And so one of the things that we do is constant communication. We're not going to take something off of a conveyor belt, look at it and go, ooh, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. And I'm too lazy to look at the documentation. So I'm just going to put it back on the conveyor belt. We look at that thing and say, oh, I'm not quite sure the next best steps. So let me ping George on Slack or let me ping him on Teams or whatever it might be. Ask a few questions. And then when you answer it, we then put that into our documentation for the next time. It's just like you hired an agent. It's just like you're bringing on a new agent. That person is not going to know everything day one, but after a while, you're going to expect them to understand those things after you continue to provide them that information. And so,
So, so,
not
so,
outsource help
so
desk, we're a fractional
hold
agent.
on. No, no, you made a really important kind of point here. Back in the 2010s when I went through this personally, there was not a real-time communication between the front lines on the help desk side, vendor side, and our inside engineers, techs, whatever you want to call them. So
Yeah.
effectively, it was like the Chinese wall, right? You know, like,
Yep.
hey, we went into documentation, we looked once, couldn't figure it out, but it was there. I promise it was there. And then they were like, oh, kicking it up. And then there was no way to send it back down, right? You're like, no, it's here. Here's the link. They're like, sorry, it's already been escalated. Try again next time. And I was like, so here you're like, hey, there's a Teams or a Slack. It's like, hey, I got so and so on the line. I'm running into this, and you know, like, so there's an attempt to in real time, like, get to a resolution point before we get to an escalation point.
Exactly. And we call it a light escalation. We're going to send it over. And it's not a huge wall, but we're going to send it over the wall. And we're going to say, hey, what do we need to do here? And it's a lot easier for our clients who might be out, marketing, doing a conference or whatever it is, to pull their phone out, look at that message and say, oh, it's in this area, or it's whatever, or hey, escalate this to me, let them know it's going to be a couple hours, whatever it might be, instead of having to run over and pull their laptop out and do that actual ticket. And so that constant communication is definitely something that we saw as the right way to do things. So that, that's been our focus.
No, that, I mean, that's a good evolution to this. Um, Talk about we start off with all these tools, right? I mean,
Okay.
so, a lot of people use some of the companies that we just referenced, right? Kaseya, ConnectWise, Autotask Data is part of that stack, right? There's Halo and Ninja and all this whatever, and then like there's middleware. There's a lot of integrations. We all know we've been to a lot of conferences. There's like 100 vendors, right? They're all supposed to integrate. It's very sometimes very paper thin word, but it's out there, right? And then then you got even new guys out there, right? You got the Roosts of the world who like try and automate some of the steps in multiple systems. And of course, there's the documentation platforms out there, like the IT Glues and the Hoodoos and whatever. And like, how do you bring in people that even know how to function across not just one set of tools? It could be like every MSP could be using something different, right?
Absolutely. So that was a great question. And I wish I had like this bulletproof answer that I can give you, but I don't. What we do is we present our agents a platform that allows them to jump in between each one of our clients' tools. In addition to that, we show them the documentation while it's happening. And so, yes, they need to pass a course that says that they know how to use Synchro. But once they
Mm-hmm.
know how to use Synchro, they can use Synchro for George's MSP, and they can understand that this is how George's MSP tracks time. So they're working directly in that system. They're a part of the team again, and they're following the set of rules that have been defined over however many months or years that we've been in service to our clients.
Interesting. So, like, if their documentation says, go to this tool, press this button, right click, run this, they'll go that far.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Uh,
Interesting. How do you handle, because I mean, this is any business problem
mhm,
that has to service people outside of banker's hours, right?
mhm.
So, like, how do you staff the graveyard shift, right? Like, how does that work? How do you staff the weekend shifts? Like, isn't that the hard, like, for us historically, that's the hardest one to hire for, right? Because they're the ones that people don't want to do, right? So, like, how do you fix that problem?
So the after hours, one of the things that we leverage is the different time zones. We're a distributed workforce. We're all over the U.S. We've got folks on the West Coast where I am, got folks on the East Coast where I know you are. I think that kind of helps a little bit. We've got somebody that wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning, East Coast time, and then we've got somebody that signs off at 2 o'clock Pacific, and neither the twain shall meet, or whatever the saying is. Um, that kind of helps us with that full 24/7 coverage. The weekend hours, you're right, it's tough, and I think that toughness is the biggest benefit that we can give to our MSP partners right now. It's going to be tough to hire for weekends. It's going to be tough to have people on call. It's going to be tough to compensate, to make sure you've got the right team, you've got all these things in place. Instead of doing all of that on your own, you can look to us where we're kind of going through that toughness. Every one of our weekend people are weekend and weekday. We don't want to have a B team on the weekend. We want to have that same agent that's, yeah, see, we want to have that same agent that's working on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, also working on Saturday, Sunday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, also working on Saturday, Sunday. So
Hmm.
it's tough because people want their weekends, but there's value to a varied schedule. I've got some folks that are, their spouses are, in the healthcare profession or something like that. So they're working, 3 12-hour days on the weekend anyway. So might as well work as well.
Interesting. So when you're hiring, right, you must advertise, hey, this
Mhm.
shift is going to be Tuesday through Saturday,
Yep.
right? Or hey, this shift's going to be Saturday through Wednesday. Or like you're actually, finding people raising their hands up front saying, yes, I can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Our most recent post that we had for a support agent was almost exactly that. It was Wednesday to Sunday and Sunday to Tuesday, whatever and then one of them was 5 in the morning East Coast, and the other one started at 2 in the afternoon East Coast. So it's all about kind of filling in the slots, and us doing that, making sure that there's those buns and seats means that our clients don't need to. Maybe you get one call a month on Saturday at 3 o'clock in the morning, but that call is probably going to be really important, and so you want to have somebody there to take that. Or
How do you handle the compliance questions, right? Because like I'm sure they're not going down, they're probably going up because like more and more MSPs are getting hip to the fact that their customers are forcing them down this road anyway, right? Like it's just
Mhm.
now becoming almost part of the business reality, right? So I assume like everybody, you're probably background checking your people, but like what happens when they say, well, you're got in order for your people to service our customers, they need to be able to go through this security awareness training or this whatever HIPAA compliance updated training or whatever. How do you get all of that in?
it We send it to our agents. Hey, we're actually, one of our clients is SOC 2 Type 2 recently. Every year we get the little video that we have to watch, and our agents watch it and they acknowledge that they watched it. And it's really like, we want our clients to treat us like we're a part of their team. We have all the security in place. We use a Perimeter 81, we use the remote gateway, we use all that stuff, password managers, privileged access, things like that. But when it comes to the compliance, we want it the same way that you would, assign that to your agent that's sitting that cube over. So send it our way. If it's a 5 hour course, we won't be too happy about it. But if it's a 10 or 15 minute video, or if it's certain, practices and procedures that we need to follow, we align that with our clients.
Do you say you're doing this pod approach, which is awesome. Maybe I was coming into the beginning of that in my journey back in the 2010s on the vendor side. Do you how much like time do you or even input do you get from the person subscribing to your services and them interacting with the people in the pod? Like how much input are they allowed to give, or do you include them kind of in the, hey, we're bringing a new person into this pod, we want to give you a chance to kind of maybe talk to them before we installed them? Like how does that work?
We don't. That's a really good question. With the pod, if somebody were to leave the pod, we would just tell our clients, hey, they've left the pod. If somebody's going to get added to the pod, we just tell them, hey, they're getting added. Um, it is a trust factor. They have to trust that we're putting the right people in place. Beyond that, one of the things that we like to do is allow our clients to actually, show off our agents. And so we'll send bios and things like that. So, hey, here's this new agent that's going to be working on your team. They like long walks on the beach. They love this football team, whatever it might be, so that they can just kind of ingrain themselves in the client's ecosystem. Uh,
Interesting.
but
Okay.
but not a lot of sign off. Like, we don't present, hey, here's 5 agents that could join your team. Which one do you want? It's more like, hey, we're gonna, swap this person out.
Okay. um what happens when there's a, as all things go with human beings, personality clash?
Ah, yes. Okay. How bad is the personality clash in your scenario here?
I mean, listen, as a guy outside of Philadelphia in the Northeast, little things for some reason get perceived as big things. I digress. I mean, as a guy who lives in the Northeast, I feel like I can just air my grievances, like Festivus, and like we just talk about it and we move on. But like that's just me.
Good. Good.
That's just me. Everybody has a different, way of handling problems. So I'm curious, like, and I'll give you a couple things that come to mind. One, end customer had a bad interaction with an agent. They call upstairs. They're like, dude, what is this? Why did this happen? I don't want to talk to this person ever again. send
Yeah.
them out to go flip burgers at McDonald's or something. Who knows how that conversation, something like that.
Yeah.
The other one could be, in agent with inside person on company, right? Like
Correct.
disagreement on, hey, it's here, man. Here's
Right.
information. It's all stepped out for you. Where are you getting stuck? No, I followed it. I'm kicking it up. Now there's this disagreement on why it got escalated. I don't know. Those are two that I remember from my journey. I know not your company, but since we're in the genre of what you do, there they are.
So I think that to answer the question a little bit more succinctly, we've had one instance of that happening where one of our clients wanted one of our agents not to support them. That for us was something that really illuminated a lot of our processes and allowed us to get better in the way that we train our folks. The auditability of each of these interactions means that if somebody calls me and says, hey, I had this really terrible experience, or one of our clients had a terrible experience with your agent, we can provide all of the records that we would need to be able to kind of go to court and say, hey, here's what happens. Sometimes we have folks that just aren't having it that day, and it doesn't matter who's on the phone or who's taking their ticket. It's just going to be a bad experience for them. And so we're able to kind of CYA, so that we can make sure that that information goes over to our client. In that one case that we had, frankly, it was the agent was going too fast, and they were making mistakes, and they saw the activity as productivity, and so all they wanted to do was crush the tickets, but they weren't really doing them well enough. And so that gave us an opportunity to pull that person out of that pod, move them into something that was a little bit less hectic, less frequency of tickets, and then train them up. A year later, and we've only been around for 2.5 years. A year later, we probably could have put that person in the pod and they would have never known. However, we respect the wishes. If you don't want somebody in there, we'll pull them out.
No, that's it. I mean, listen, it's a great example. I'll give you the one story for whatever it's worth on my side. I had one of my largest customers as an MSP. They were like, hey, listen, the interaction seems to be, they were saying inconsistent. I'm like, it's a very interesting word. What does that mean? Can you give me an example? And they then, took a little bit. They came back to me and they're like, I have one for you. I was like, okay, what is it? They're like, we called in to reset a password for an email, for an Office 365 email user, and it took 17 minutes. And I was like, huh? They're like,
Yeah,
yep, 17 minutes. And I was like, that doesn't sound right to me because it's like a 5 minute, 4 minute thing.
yeah,
Like, why did it take 17 minutes? So what I was doing, because I was a little bit, I don't know, like, I was like, hey, you're saying you're recording everything, whatever, right? Whenever I had requested stuff, it took a while for that information to make it back to me. So I was like, I'm going to do something a little bit, not tricky or mischievous, right? It was just like, well, I'm going to have calls come to me before they go to the help desk. So that I'm going to record them before they get to you so that when I come to you, I have it already. I don't have to wait, right? Whatever. So I went back to my vendor at the time and I'm like, I drove to their office and I sat down because I could.
sure.
I said, okay, play. And I started to watch. And I just watched everybody, and just listening to this call. And
Yeah,
sure as not, 17 minutes. And I was just like, why?
yeah,
And all they could come back to me was, well, we'll work on that. That seems to be like a training item. And I was like,
yeah,
dude. And I was like, my biggest customer is basically telling me, you better do something about them or we're going to do something about you. Like,
yeah.
not exactly that 1 3 word sentence doesn't help me.
Right,
So
right.
like, anyway, just bringing up my experience, right? Like, unfortunately, like when you tell, like, whenever I tried this, I was like, listen, give it a chance, right? Like they may have not complained about things early on, right? They kind of like were like, all right, well, on my fifth or sixth time when something didn't go wrong, that's when like, but unfortunately, because they, we didn't have that kicked up to us sooner, they're already frustrated. You know what I mean? So like that whole thing's happening.
One of the things that we do is we're really focused on the reporting and the metrics behind it all. And so we do have the average engagement time pretty visible. And so if you, George, saw that every time that a ticket came in or an engagement happened with us, and it was 18 minutes on average, and you thought, you know what, I'm not really sending them stuff that would take 18 minutes, that creates that feedback loop a lot sooner. So I don't know. I think that covers some of those potential issues, but you can't cover all of them. We have calls that go way longer than we'd expect, and we audit them, and we see that it was a chain request, or the person put us on hold, or something might have happened. And so it's hard to say that everything's going to be exactly 4 minutes, but if something starts straying, we can see that deviation, and we can start to audit it a little bit harder.
No, that's fair. That's good. So back in my day, they would do it like they were charging by the workstation and by the server.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they had like during business hours coverage, only night and weekend coverage, or 24-hour, right? It was like a bronze, gold, silver type thing.
Mhm.
I know everybody has like a slightly different packaging of this. I've run into some people in the arena that say, no, we're going to do it by number of tickets, untimed, or sometimes it's block of hours, right? And we're going to chew it in certain increments. So like, what's your magic menu here? How does this work?
So I'm not sure if this is going to prompt a lot more discussion, or you're just going to kick me off the show. We do it all, consumption based. We go
Okay.
by the minute. So that first level of service, which is really that technical live answer, it's $2 a minute. We're going to pick up the phone. Average engagements are going to be 2 to 3 minutes. Somebody's going to say, my printer is not printing. We're going to assess it. We're going to put a priority to it, and we're going to send it over in a form. Second level, where we're doing that structured troubleshooting, they're going to say, hey, my printer is not printing, and we're going to try to take them through a handful of troubleshooting steps to resolve the issue. 40 to 50% resolution rate, nothing too crazy, but the engagements are 5 to 7 minutes. Those are $3 a minute. So just to give you an idea, it's $15, $21. The last thing, where we're fully embedded in the help desk, because there are so many 3 to 4 minute password resets, account unlocks, things like that, and a variety of those ones that go a little bit longer, our average there across the company is 12 minutes, and we charge $4 a minute for that. And so you're talking about what is that? Less than $10 a ticket, around $20 a ticket for the second level, and then around 45, $50 a ticket for the third level.
So it's one of these things. I use the word lawyer. Don't get upset with me. It's like,
No,
hey, I'm gonna pre-fund you a certain amount of money. You're gonna start chewing away at that money, and then I'm gonna get to like a low re-up point where I got to refill, and then you're gonna charge me for that bucket again.
So we don't charge you for that full bucket unless you want to move over to that full bucket. So
Okay.
if you were to sign up for 1,000 minutes, which we've got the best part about this consumption thing is we're the canary in the coal mine. If you start seeing that you're using a lot more time than you expect, as an MSP, you would say, why did they take 30 tickets about this thing? Instead of just saying, hey, whatever, it's unlimited, we're just going to send it over there. And then they improve that, which makes the process even better for their client, their end user experience. So that consumption thing kind of incentivizes everybody in the chain.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. And then I feel like I missed the thread of what you asked. What did you just ask?
No, no, no. I was just like, like, is there a minimum? Do you
Oh,
charge like you know, I'm coming to you for the first time, right? Like, and we'll get into what the onboarding part looks like in a second, but it's like, hey, how like is it the number of customers and the number of employees by the customers and the time that I expect you to receive these support requests? How does that factor into the per minute thing?
so we would just ask you, as a mature MSP, you should have some level of metrics to understand what your volume is going to look like. The first two levels of service are basically a retainer, where it's making sure that there's butts and seats for 24/7, 24/7, and then that per minute from there. You can buy blocks of 100 minutes at a time. It's going to be a little bit cheaper than if you just do it ad hoc. And so you could come to me and say, hey, I really want somebody to pick up the phones on the weekends. I want to know if it's a P1 and have that escalated to me, but I don't want to be on the front line. And we can say, okay, great, George, $200. You'll go, okay, cool. We'll sign you up for a subscription. You use 10 minutes. We're going to charge you for those 10 minutes. You say to us, hey, we're going to use 100-ish minutes a month. We'll sell you 100 minutes. That becomes your subscription. And you end up kind of knowing what that cost is going to be going forward. If you use 500 minutes a month for that 100-minute subscription, then we go back to you and say, hey, you're going to get a better deal. You're going to get a volume discount if you go to this higher level. Is this expected? And you might say, oh no, I was out of town or something crazy happened or whatever it is. Then you just cover whatever the overage was, and we stay on that 100-minute plan. It's
Now,
all
if I
super.
don't, on the other side, if I buy 100 minutes and I only use 5, then what?
Yeah. So that in that case, it is a use it or lose it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like, good old fashioned cell phones back in the
E-
day where everything was unlimited.
Exactly. Exactly. Were you a brick guy or were you a Motorola flip phone?
I started with the Nokia with the
Okay.
snake.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
But
fair.
I remember nights and weekends. I remember unlimited in network, right? You remember those? And then I remember you could buy your messaging plan based on how many messages were included. And
Yeah.
you could buy your data plan separately, right? Like it was all one big game.
Yeah.
And so I remember everybody waited till 7 o'clock, right? 7 to 7, right? To make all
Exactly.
their calls or nights and weekends. And man, when you went over your messages, you're like, what the? And then you used to be able to do like the pound star feature codes in
Yes.
order
To
to
check the
figure
balance.
out what where you were at that in that particular moment, right? So like, yeah, that wasn't that long ago, by the way. I don't care what anybody says, but and I remember I was on a legacy unlimited plan for a long time when they got rid of unlimited, and then when they came out the new unlimited, they're like, "Oh, we need to get you off this legacy plan." I'm like, "Uh huh, I see
Yeah.
what's happening here." But anyway, no, that's interesting how you do it, and what works really well and what doesn't work well at all.
Oh, that's a good question. What works really well are clients that really subscribe to that collaborative nature, that really think about us like they're hiring a new agent. That means that they're more available for when we have those light escalations. That means that they're more willing to, update documentation with us, collaborate on those things. That works incredibly well. We have some clients that I can tell you about that are just in our Slack, all day long, and they're messaging about certain things, and we are in lockstep with them. And when we deliver service, it's just like they were delivering service. And so I think that that's something that works really well. Conversely to that, I think it's the people that see us as maybe something that they're really delegating everything to and not expecting to have to do anything. I don't want to use the A word, but they're abdicating. And when that happens, it makes it very difficult for us to collaborate, to understand the issue in real time, to be able to provide the level of service that they want. One of the things that I always say is that we deliver, the fundamentals. We deliver the warm and fuzzies. We're going to be professional. We're going to be friendly. We're going to be all of that stuff. But if we don't have a partner that works with us to help understand their systems, to understand the things that their clients are going to need, then that's kind of where things end. And that just means a bad experience for everybody.
Okay. So like, hey, I'm just dumping this on you. I don't care how many minutes it is. Just send me a bill. But then they leave you on an island and they're not reachable. That's where things really break down.
Yeah, exactly. And then they go, well, why are you escalating more than 50% of the things? And we go, well, you didn't get us set up with whatever admin access or whatever login, or, we need to add a handful of people to this other system or whatever it is. And without that kind of give and take, it's not a good experience.
So what things won't you handle? Like, do you have like a go no go list? Like, here's what we're okay with handling. Here's what we're not okay with handling.
Yeah. So we've got a little list, our goal is really that level one, that tier one support. Um, we have a list of all the things that are in scope, a list of the things that are out of scope. I say that tentatively because I always like to say that we're level one plus. If you were to have a document that says you need to do these 5 things in Sentinel-1 to check whatever, or you needed to do these 5 things in this other tool to do this thing, we're going to look at that. And if we've got everything that we need, we're going to take care of it for you. So we can say, hey, we're going to do the basic, move, add, change stuff. We're going to do this and that. We're going to do that. But if you give us what we need to be successful, we're going to take it and run.
Okay. So documentation, videos, well written things, step by step is king, right? That didn't change from my 2010s experience till now, which is great.
Mhm.
Do you create like a separate Slack group, Teams group? Do you let them choose? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So we're internally, we're Slack only.
Mm,
And so we'll ask it, right? Hippie tech startup. So we do create a Slack channel for our clients that have Slack. And if they've just got Teams, then we'll get, involved in their Teams and we'll ping them directly to Teams.
cool.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you've been at this for sounds like a little over 2 years, maybe closer to 3,
Yeah.
or somewhere in between. How many MSP partners do you have right now?
We're around 60 right now.
Okay.
So, we're not huge, but we're growing very quickly. We've got a couple of new additions to the team that have enabled some of that growth. Some people that you might know, Amy Luby, and
Yeah.
probably sorry calling their names out, but I know you know
Okay.
them. And so I think that that's going to really accelerate us. And the fun part for me is being able to create those processes and to grow the team and get the satisfaction of delivering the service that I know that we can
Hmm.
for our clients. So that's the exciting part.
That's awesome. That's great. I mean, that's actually a good amount of partners. I mean, I'm sure they're varying, right? Could be one man, could be pretty mature, right? I'm sure you know what's a good, good customer, what's a bad customer, it seems like, which is good because it doesn't take long, in my opinion, to figure it out. And people like Amy who have done something like this in their journey, right? Like she probably comes with like a, hey, I've been down this movie, like I've seen this movie before. Let me rewind and just tell you the good parts, all right? That's good industry knowledge for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, and then you said you're distributed, but where's the company based out of?
So we're in Orange County, California.
Ah,
Myself and my partner Matt. Yeah.
you don't work from the beach, do you?
No, no, but it is. Let's see, 64 degrees right now. So probably not too great, but not too
Hey,
cloudy.
just
Not too
it's like, oh, I'm the guy in the commercial that says I work from the beach. Ah, it's all good.
no.
Um, awesome. Well, I'm excited. I know a lot of companies that used to be in this category have either merged, been acquired, gone out of
Mhm.
business, no longer in the MSP space, like decided to go upstream and leave the MSP space. So I feel like there was room for somebody new to come in and kind of like try and reset it and do it a
Yeah.
different way. Um, I've heard of a lot of people trying to hire their own people in some of the international markets, but
Mhm.
dude, and some people have been successful. I'll give them credit, but for me, I have a lot of concerns there where it's like, how do I, background check these people, make sure they're not doing anything bad, make sure they're not doing three jobs at once,
Right.
like then there's do they have the knowledge they need to be successful at the job? How much training do I got to put in there in order to like
Yeah.
I'm really hesitant when I start talking about this because back to the customer experience, like you only got so many bad, shots at this until it just derails and then there's no recovery. So, unless you're going to spend a lot of energy and like time over on wherever the other side is in order to do it right, whatever that means. And I would argue a lot of the MSPs don't have that time or money investment for whatever it's worth. Um, then it comes back to, hey, there hasn't really been a lot of US based versions of this that are like maybe they I know the vendor I was with back in the 2010s started off US based and all of a sudden made the shift. I was like, oh well, if you want to stay US you got to pay a premium now, this that and the other. Now I was like, that's not what I signed up for. What happened here? Okay, all right.
I think our goal is to be
I'm
the
sure you can guess, right? Because I'm in Philly and I was able to get in my car and drive to go see
yes, yes,
somebody.
yes.
So I'm sure you could put it together. But I will leave the name unsaid for everybody else.
Fair enough.
By the way, it didn't end well. For anybody that wants to know my personal journey, after pretty much close to 3 years, and that's like as much as you've been in business, I tried it and I tried everything, and I went there 8 times,
Yeah,
and into the office and drove my car and I sat down and I did examples and presented like very very clear, I don't understand how we fix this, but here's what happened end to end,
yeah.
and because I wanted it to work, I was desperate for it to work at the time, and I just got to the point where I was like, this isn't working. But that was just my personal experience, and I think one of the benefits to a newer company, right? I think the argument's going to be, well, they're new. Can they scale this? It's a hard to scale business. I digress. But you also work with people, which I think is important. Like somebody who's very rigid, you get what I got, which was, well, you're just going to have to let us work through our process. I was like, so what is
Yeah.
a reasonable amount of time for you to better the process? 3 years was my limit for how reasonable I felt. Like at that point, like I've given you a lot of money and the time period did not change anything, but I digress.
So I think that our goal is to be the easy button for this customer experience delivery. we want our clients and our clients' teams to be able to do the things that they're really good at, which is, the technical engineering. And I think that that's our goal here in this space, is to just, be the ones that take that stress off, that make it so that we're the buffer between, the front line and the projects that you have, the, keeping you from being in that distracted or interruptive state and, your regular day. We also want to have people take vacations. There's a lot of MSPs in this channel that haven't vacationed for years because they're
Years. Yeah.
grinding. We want to be able to empower that. I promised that I would talk about the Eagles. I know they're what,
Yeah.
a 13-1 right now.
I mean,
Pretty
since
good.
we're there, David, yes. I mean, now I would prefer, like most of the other people here in Philadelphia, that the NFC playoffs come through South Philadelphia. On the last podcast, he was a Washington fan. I don't even like the word Commanders. I thought that was a horrible team name selection, but I digress. Washington football team, I thought would have been fine. That's just me from the outside, but yes, here in Philly, we would like to recreate 2017, where Minnesota had to come into Philadelphia for the NFC Championship. And if you recall, at that time, wasn't that long ago, it was Tom Brady and Bill Belichick still together in the Patriots, and Nick Foles off the bench, came in, went the distance, and rockied our way to the Super Bowl. So we beat Baltimore. We beat Pittsburgh. I mean, we own the NFC North, or the AFC North, right? We swept them out. All right. So who's going to come to Philadelphia and beat me?
That's a good question.
I don't see it, man.
Fantastic.
Come on down.
Okay.
I'll take any wager. Hey, you want to come? You want to come to the game? I will get you there. No problem. But don't be upset when the fireworks gun off at the end.
Fantastic. I'm going to be in Vegas in a couple weeks over the holiday period, and so I might have to put a bet down in your honor to see if they can go the distance.
Oh, I think they will, and I think they're probably favored at this point. But I could be wrong. I'm not a big sports better, although I've run some people that were oddly in sports betting that I was shocked. I was like, what? Okay, cool. It's easy now. You just do it from your phone. But yes, in Vegas, that's a better experience. I digress. All right, David, how do people get a hold of you, figure out what the deal is with your company, maybe get some information, maybe figure out how to talk to somebody, give them the ride?
Yeah, so I think that the first place would be gethelpt.com, GETHELPT.com. That's our website. And then I'm going to do something I don't do regularly, but you can send me a text or give me a call directly, 949-838-4113. Happy to chat with you if you've got any questions about Helpt. Want to show you the difference.
Wow. You are one of less than 10 people I could count on my hands that have gone on this podcast and given out a phone number where somebody can text you or call you. That is absolutely crazy. The first one who did that was David Bellini. I believe it or not, I was like, David, are you sure that was it? Yeah, I'm sure. Oh, okay. All right.
I have a feeling that David didn't say what I'm about to say. I accept any memes or pictures that you want to text me. That's fine.
M4. Got it. That was awesome. I enjoyed this one. Sorry for ranting a little bit, but man, it was just like a couple of different conversations happened right for this call. And I was like, man, this is all perfectly targeted to this conversation. So wish you and the team over there all the success. I know some of the people on that there for a long time, like Amy. I think you've put together, some good help, to try and build this startup up, which is great. I am, if you don't already know this, I think you do, but I'm going to say it anyway. I am a fan of the startup. I've been there many times. I champion those people. I really feel like we should encourage people to do more of that. There's a lot of business out there for all of us. It can't just be the big guys that I mentioned earlier on this call. And, anything we can do to help your journey, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you, George. Thank you for having me. Where are we going to see you next? I know you're a road warrior.
We're in the middle, like everybody else, I'm sure, of planning out what is 2025, and January is already looking kind of busy myself, to be honest. But I think from an industry event standpoint, for whatever reason in this industry, which I'm sure you've already picked up, things don't really start to pick up until March-ish. But once it comes to June, then the pedals being put down, and then once you get to September, we're emptying all the artillery, all right? And then all these events happen in a 90-day window, which I'm still recovering from this past Q3, Q4. So, good news is, We love airplanes around here,
Yeah.
as much as I love Chick-fil-A drive-thrus. Bad news is that everybody has probably somebody else in their life that doesn't like that, and so a little bit of balancing is probably for the best. But you probably won't see them on the road until later into late January, early February, right? When try and get a little bit of like team time, to crash course, like get everybody online and use that beginning part of the year that we hope is quiet. But I don't know about you, hasn't been quiet.
Well, enjoy the downtime if you get it.
We will be in touch, my friend. Catch you on the other side of the holidays. Enjoy your Christmas and New Year's, and catch you in 2025.
Thank you.
All right, guys. See ya.